Hey, BillO'Reilly.com premium members, welcome to the No Spin News for Tuesday, September 19th, 2017, launch day for Killing England, the brutal struggle for American independence. Been a long day for me. I was on today's show. You may have heard it's all over the place. We have it posted on BillO'Reilly.com. Okay, interview. I understand that Matt Lauer's got to kind of ask questions that his audience, I guess, I don't know. But I didn't mind. And then we got the point across about the book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the big story today is Donald Trump's speech before the United Nations. 41 minutes, he read it, which is good. You know what? Tough to ad-lib in front of the UN. Remember, most of them don't speak English. You get the little thing in the ear. The translator is telling them what the president's saying. Some translators are better than others. 193 countries there. I've been in my life to 82 countries. I was looking at the map trying to, which ones did I miss? I thought I was in most places in the world, but no, I still have a long way to go to all of them. All right, here are the highlights of the president's speech. He told North Korea that he would destroy the entire country if they attacked anybody. Okay? So here's the quote. Unless North Korea backs down, we'll have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and his regime. Rocket Man being Kim Jong-un. All right, so this is an attempt to marginalize him, diminish him in the eyes of the world. You know, some people don't really follow it too much, but pretty strong on North Korea. Then Iran, hinting that the Iranian nuke deal might not be carried forward. I don't believe that. I think that President Trump will carry it forward. But giving Iran a little jazz, outlaw nation, terrorist supporter, worst deal America ever made. That's a slap at President Obama, of course. And then this was the most interesting part of the speech for me. Trump lays into Cuba and Venezuela, two nations that really don't have anything to do with the state of the world right now. Well, he could have easily ignored them and got into Zimbabwe and Bangladesh, So who cares about Cuba and Venezuela? In the grand scheme of things, nobody. The point he was making is that communism and socialism don't work anywhere. So he was kind of a Cold War vibe and making the point that these are disasters and that he's going to take action against Venezuela. He's revoked the détente with Cuba because they don't work, they persecute their people, and communism and socialism are the worst. He paused, did the president, and I think he was looking for some applause. Nothing. Stone silence. And it just occurred to me that how many nations in the world still think that socialism is a viable option. I don't expect them to give him a standing O, but it was really, and Trump didn't go back on the script right away. He let it hang. I think he might have been surprised. And finally, nationalism. Nationalism is when you put your country ahead of everybody else. And of course, Donald Trump does that. But it was an interesting twist. Instead of saying to the world, well, the United States is the best country and you're all second, he said, the United States, we're going to impose nationalism and look out for ourselves, but you should do the same thing. You should do the same thing. Wherever you are, the leadership of your country should put your country first. So that took the edge off it a little bit. He did complain that America pays 22% of the United Nations budget. It's true, we do, but we are the controlling force of good in the world. I know some Americans don't believe that, but that's the truth. And we support the United Nations, UNICEF, Health, World Health Organization, because we want the world to be stable and safe, and in some places peaceful. So it is, if you look at 193 countries and one country is carrying 22% of the burden, he's right. But there's a reason we do it. All right, so that was it for the Trump speech. I want to bring in a good guest, Stuart Patrick, Senior Fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. But he's the author of an interesting book, if you're into foreign affairs, called The Sovereignty Wars, Reconciling America with the World. So we will get to your book in a moment, Mr. Patrick. First of all, A to F, how would you grade the speech?
I give it a solid B. I think that it far exceeded expectations. I think everybody in New York, boy, in the weeks before this speech was on tenterhooks, wondering what the Mr. America First was going to say in the Temple of Globalism. But I think he delivered, and I think he also delivered for his base as well as providing some reassurance, as you pointed out, to the other member states that, look, he wants to make the United Nations work.
All right, so you give him a B. Two strongest points in the speech.
Okay, the first was I really thought he did a masterful job of threading the needle between between on the one hand his base that was looking for nationalist themes, and then also showing that wasn't incompatible with international cooperation. He basically made the point, which shouldn't have to be made, but it was good that he did make it, which is because it's too often misunderstood, is that sovereignty is not the enemy of the United Nations. The United Nations is founded on the principle of sovereignty. These are independent countries. They come together because they think it's in their interest, and they try to make things happen there. And and when their interests are congruent, they hopefully can move forward. So he basically was saying, don't be. It would be wrong for the United Nations ever to put itself up as some sort of a global government, a world government, which would be a terrible idea. It's a place where independent sovereign nations and peoples come together to try to deal with things. And I think that was really salutary.
Because he has to take, for his base, the opposite of Barack Obama, who some believe was a globalist, who wanted to put the United States in a position where we're one of many, whereas Trump wants the USA to lead the world. Other strong point?
Yeah, another strong point, I think, was really the focus on accountability. I mean, we can get to the countries as well that is focusing on calling out, but, this is another thing that plays very well, not only with his base, and frankly, any American taxpayer wants to get your money's worth. And, he says we're not going to blow up the United Nations, but we want money for performance, and it needs to be able to deliver. And I think Nikki Haley, actually, as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, has played a really skillful game here. She has gotten the president, knowing that he has these instincts, to make common cause with Antonio Guterres, although he is a Portuguese socialist politician, is a pragmatic guy, and really wants to ride herd on
he's the UN. He's the head of the UN.
Okay. He's the UN Secretary General, and that's good.
Right. The president also wanted the United Nations to be more effective. Like, look, you can sit around and talk all day, but there's some things that have to be done, so you got to get off your butt and do them. So I thought I like that. Two weakest points?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moving from talk to action was what Nikki Haley has been saying, too.
Two weakest points?
Two weaker points. I have to say that I'm enough of a fan of the idea that the United States stands for democracy and human rights in the world that I thought there wasn't a whole lot on that. And, I think obviously a lot of President Trump's base, there's this idea of, democracy and human rights ends up being, us going to war and trying to change other countries at the point of a gun. And I understand the fatigue with that, but I do think that the danger of having just a sovereignty approach to international affairs is that you sort of give a pass conceivably to thugs. He did, and he was very slow in calling out thugs. I mean, he called out the socialist thugs, right? He called out Venezuela, but he didn't call out Sisi. Now, it may be that sometimes you have to make bargains with the devil. There's a guy who's our SOB as opposed to somebody else's SOB.
Who are you talking about now?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Sisi. Yeah, the general in Egypt. He didn't mention
in Egypt.
Him
okay.
As, yeah. So basically, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he didn't. Right. Because Egypt helps the United States, and then that's what he's doing. He's not. He's not an equal opportunity basher, Donald Trump. He's got an agenda,
right?
And that's not always a bad thing.
Exactly.
All right, tell me about
uh-huh.
Tell me about the Sovereignty Wars book. What's the headline of the book? I mean, people when they read, they want to learn, but they want a point of view, and say, why am I paying $20 for this book? Give us a headline for
Yeah,
it.
totally. Well, Kelly, I really appreciate it, Bill. Sovereignty Wars is basically about how does the United States balance its natural desire for independence and particularly supremacy of its constitution, founded in we the people, as the president said today. How does it balance that with the need to cooperate with other countries in a practical manner? And the argument that I make is that a lot of the major controversy over sovereignty is really based on a misconception that if the U.S. signs up to treaties or enters international organizations, it inevitably loses sovereignty. The point I make is, in an age of global problems, that's often an exercise in sovereignty. So we can be confident that we're not being overtaken by some superior being. I don't know if you remember those old Hebrew National, hot dog commercials where they say we have to appeal to a higher power. Well, the United States does not have to appeal to a higher power, at least in political terms, right? And we're very good at protecting ourselves. The argument that I do make in the book is that a trade-off with sovereignty we do face sometimes is between freedom of action. Like, we'd love to never be constrained in what we do versus getting stuff done. And sometimes when you join in international ventures, whether it's a coalition or whether it's an international organization, you sometimes have to make compromises.
Yeah, to get it done. So it's a realistic view of how to use U.S. power to accomplish things. We appreciate it, Mr. Patrick. Very nice of you to help us out today.
It was great to be here.
And tomorrow, I know on the cables tonight, they're going to deconstruct Trump's speech. And you just heard a bipartisan guy at the Council on Foreign Relations give President a B, a solid B. I would give him B plus because he exceeded expectations, as Mr. Patrick said. But tonight, they're going to harpoon him. We're going to play you some of that stuff tomorrow just to show you how unfair the analysis is. Paul Manafort, I've told you time and time and time again, is in a very precarious place on the Russian stuff, all right? Very precarious. So today, the left-wing media is running wild with Manafort and Mueller's after him and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. And the media doesn't know. The media makes this up. They make it up. But I will tell you, I'm not going to be surprised if Paul Manafort gets in trouble here, all right, on the Russian interference with the election. I will not be surprised. I don't know if he's guilty. I don't know what he did. I'm going to give him the presumption of innocence. But that's what that's all about. The other big brouhaha today was the Obamacare never-ending soap opera. Now, I think I can do this so it's not boring, all right? And I know this is a little heady, this podcast, but it's important. It's important to know how this government is operating under Donald Trump. All right, so Obamacare, the Republicans have 52 senators, okay? So the Republicans want Obamacare out of there. They don't like it. So they have come up with a plan that they think they can get 50 senators on the GOP side to vote for. They're not going to get crazy Susan Collins in Maine, and I say that with all due respect. She is a very smart woman, but she is not a Republican. Or she's not. Right? She likes Obamacare. And Rand Paul, never going to get him in Kentucky. He's a contrarian. He's a libertarian. All right, so those two are out of the box. So they need John McCain and Lisa Murkowski from Alaska to vote for this. So Lindsey Graham is a sponsor of the bill, co-sponsor of the bill. All right, along with Bill Cassidy. I don't know Cassidy. I know Graham pretty well. That means John McCain will vote for this bill because he and Graham are like that. They're talking. So McCain's in. So that gives him 49 votes. Only need 50. If they get 50 senators, Pence will vote for it. Goes back to the House. House will pass it. Okay, so that's close. So Murkowski, all right, she's the one. Is she going to vote for it or not? If not, they got to pick off a Democrat or two, which is what the Republicans were saying today with Claire McCaskill and other people in states that voted for Donald Trump. If they kill it, these Democrats, all right, they may lose the election next year, 2018, midterms, 2018. Okay, so what this is the Republicans want to shift the healthcare system to the individual states. That's what it is. Okay, so look, we can't run it, too big a bureaucracy, too screwed up. let the individual states, we'll give them money, you run your own healthcare show. All right. In addition, we're going to stop the mandatory, you have to buy health insurance, and that employers have to insure you if they have more than 40 people working for them. That's out. And we're going to put in that insurers can't charge sick people more money. Okay, so if you have a pre-existing condition, you get what everybody else gets. It's a little problematic, but the states can deal with that. All right, so what does Chuck Schumer do? He's, the leading Democrat, Senate minority leader. He comes out right away and goes, oh, states don't want it. We have 5 Republican governments, don't want it. All right, who knows? I don't know. All I'm saying to you is this. If you let the states run the healthcare system, they will run more efficient operations. And costs will come down if you can find a way to get all the insurance companies, the farmers, the get-go with Geico, to compete, it'll come down. I'm a simple man. I think this will pass. This last shot on Obamacare, I think it'll pass. I think Murkowski in Alaska will go for this. Could be wrong. Absolutely could be wrong. Okay, crossing the border. This is from Department of Homeland Security, Immigration Office. Says it is harder to illegally cross the southern border than it has been in 50 years. Pretty impressive, right? Hold on. That's their opinion. And they all work for President Trump. So let's be a little skeptical. Stats. Border arrests down 22% this year from last year. Okay. Border arrests mean people sneaking across. Border Patrol assessments, again, subjective, show that 55 to 85% of illegal aliens crossers are apprehended or interdicted today versus 35 to 70% a decade ago. Okay. All right. And finally, there were about 170,000 illegal crossings last year, 2016. 91% fewer than in 2000. Okay? When Bush took over from Clinton. In the year 2000, an estimated 1.8 illegal aliens successfully crossed into the USA. Okay, if it's true, it's a lot of progress. I think it's probably mostly true. Mostly true. Gallup poll, 28% of the American public is satisfied with the U.S. being governed the way it's being governed. Doesn't mean anything, but I give it to you. 71% are dissatisfied. A lot of it's Congress, some of it's Trump. The American people want a tax break. If they get a tax break, that'll go up from 28 to 38% will be okay with it. And the Emmys. Now, I told you yesterday I watched 3 minutes of it, and they were so smug I had to go to the game. With the New York Giants losing to the Detroit Lions, the Giants did not look good. But I still watched it because I could not watch the Emmys because they were too smug. All right. Nobody else watched either. About 11 million viewers. That's nothing. On a factor, I used to get between 5 and 6 every night on cable news. All right. Now, this is down from 2013 when it was 18 million. So it's gone from 18 to 11. And you know what? People are tired of these pompous people telling you what they think about Trump or whatever. And it's always bashing the right, bashing traditional conservatives. Bash, bash, bash. Tired, boring. We're not watching it. That's what happened. Killing England, out today. All right, now this is the 7th Killing book. First book that I haven't had a television program to promote, so it takes a little bit more time for people to figure out what this is. But I got a big break. There is madness in the United States. Dallas, Texas. I worked at WFAA for 2 years in the 1970s. All right, this never would have happened in Dallas then, or Texas, or any place. The school board may rename schools named after George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin. Why? Because those men, in the eyes of the school board, are offensive in some way. Okay, this is PC madness, insanity, destroying our history. There's a reason, I'll tell you the reason in a moment, and I've said it to you before. Killing England, the brutal struggle for American independence, is seen through the eyes of Washington, Jefferson, and Franklin. the three men that influenced the revolution the most. And then we have our villains. Benedict Arnold, amazing villain. Amazing villain. All right? Bannister Tarleton, a British officer. Unbelievable war criminal. All of that's in there. But in order for us to fight the PC far-left loons, we have to do it on a local level. Everybody in Dallas should be at the next school board meeting saying, you know what? This is insanity. You're not changing the names. But in order to win the debate, you have to know what you're talking about. To know who Washington was, who Jefferson was, who Franklin was, what they did, and the totality of their lives. We don't sugarcoat it for you. We don't. Cindy Adams wrote a column in the New York Post today about what we found out on the personal side about the three men. Okay? But we do show you, exactly who they were. And in the end, I came to the conclusion, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff when Martin Dugard and I started to research, that number one, George Washington is pretty much the most courageous man I've ever seen. Jefferson was brilliant, but very conflicted human being. And Franklin was a genius, but a hedonist to go along with it. But it was Franklin who got the French to come in on the side of the rebels. And that meant defeat for England. That killed England. You will love this book. You will love it. But more than that, it's necessary for you to know this knowledge, to have it, for your children to know it. So we can beat back this crazy, insane, far-left PC brigade that wants to change everything. White supremacy. This just popped up, right? We hadn't heard this time last year. Now the president's a white supremacist. I'm one. Everybody who voted for Trump's a white supremacist. Why? Because the far left wants to change the Constitution of the United States. They want to knock out the electoral vote. They want to knock out capitalism. They want to knock out checks and balances. They want the federal government to have all the power and the states to have very little. The only way they can do that is to convince the majority of the American people that our Constitution was founded by, you guessed it, white supremacists. It's a prejudicial document. It's an evil document. And this country was founded on bias against black slaves, minorities, and to this day, that system is in place. That's the end game. And these people are making progress. Over my dead body, because I'm going out, I'm so happy I wrote Killing England at this time in history. I'm so happy it's out there. But I got to spread the word. And you got to spread the word if you like it. Because we have to get people on board. You order the book, we give you 50% off any of the other Killing books, and they're all good. You'll like them, okay? You become a premium member, you re-up, you already are a premium member. You re-up, you get it free, all right? It's a good investment. We're going to be around. We're going to the studio soon. Still working to get it optimum. We want it to make it the best we can for you. That's coming. So I'm really hoping that this book, the word gets out. Because again, I don't have that big cable cannon that I used to. So we got to get this word out. All right, let's go to the mail. Chris Wayne, Heath, Texas. Bill, you let Austin Goolsbee get away with saying President Trump doesn't have diplomatic skills. Really? It's a kind of a cliche now, Chris, to go really. All right? It's like Lindsey Graham today talking about Obamacare. Said at the end of the day 6 times. 6, Lindsey. You got to stop. You got to stop. All right. Why didn't you ask Goolsbee about Obama, who gave Iran a pass to develop nuclear weapons and gave them over $1 billion in cash? Because the subject was Donald Trump's diplomacy, not Barack Obama's. So, look, is Donald Trump a diplomat? He is not. That doesn't mean he's not a good president. It doesn't mean your vote was wrong. He's not a diplomat. He speaks his mind. He tweets his mind. Diplomats don't do that. Come on. Bev Atz, Wallingford, Pennsylvania. My Aunt Emily turns 95 this week, and she's reading Killing the Rising Sun. I got it for her when becoming a premium member. She would really like to read Old School, so of course I'm giving that for her birthday. You know, Aunt Emily, happy birthday. Happy birthday. we don't respect in this country our elders enough, but Bev does. You know, it's her aunt, not her mom. So treat senior citizens with kindness, please. Okay, I got a lot of touts, but I don't want to do the touts now. I want to do the hard news stuff first. Okay, Lanny Rathert, Wentzville, Missouri. Bill, I agree 100% on what you said about the thugs that are causing all the problems here in St. Louis. They need to be prosecuted to the fullest. It's the only way we can stop destructive protest, okay? I don't mind anybody protesting peacefully. The St. Louis people, fine. But don't start hurting people or destroying property. You wear a mask, you go into any city, you should be immediately arrested. Immediately arrested. Cannot have that in this age of terror. And Lanny also says he's read 150 pages of Killing England already, and he can't put it down, so that's a good thing. The Killing series, I want my 15-year-old and my 9-year-old to start reading them. Might be a little bit too much for the 9-year-old. 15 definitely can read them. Where should I start? Killing Lincoln. Killing Lincoln. I would read Killing Lincoln, then Killing England, because you got the Civil War, the Revolutionary War. Then I go to Patton, that's World War II Europe, then Killing a Rising Sun, World War II Japan, and then Jesus is a perennial. If you're a Christian or Jew, you want to know about Jesus, Killing Jesus is a perennial. And then Modern Politics, Killing Reagan. So we're covering the field. Okay. Alice in Mayford, Ontario, Canada. She thinks that last night's podcast was the best ever because I addressed the Emmys, and Alice says, I also watched 3 minutes and found it disgusting. Trump bashing has to stop. It's becoming boring and undeserving. The smug entertainers should educate themselves and follow closely what the president is doing, not listening to others to give false opinions. But that'll never happen. Because as we said, Alice, this is an industry. And in order to work in the entertainment industry, it's all about connections. And if you agree with the politics of the left, many, many jobs are more available to you. All right, Ethel in Decatur, Georgia. Isn't there a difference between assembling together and rioting? Of course there is. I would hardly call what's going on in St. Louis protected by the First Amendment. Sure it is. Because most of the demonstrators in St. Louis were peaceful. But it's that hardcore cadre that busses in with the masks and the weapons. And they hide inside the peaceful protesters who should turn on them. That's a solution to it. Marcus Barry, as a proud Scot, I'm really looking forward to Killing England. I'm getting fed up with the tweets that Donald Trump is sending out. His latest attempt at humor by tweeting out a golf shot knocking over a picture of Hillary Rodham Clinton is just silly. Okay. But you got to understand, Marcus, over there in Scotland, the president plays to his base, and they despise Hillary Clinton. I thought it was harmless. Compared to what Hillary Clinton is trying to do to Donald Trump, not even in the same hemisphere. Terry Pearson, Virginia Beach, my husband and I are on countdown till we see you and Miller in Baltimore on Friday night. We will be there at the Royal Farms Arena. Friday night, Miller and I will be there. Aha. If I had stopped the sentence with Miller and I would have been wrong. But I said we'll be there. And it's going to be a very special thing take place in that show. So I want everybody in the Mid-Atlantic area to hustle on over to the Royal Farms Arena, 7:30 Friday night, to see Dennis Miller and yours truly. Well, thank you for coming, Terry, by the way. Michael Chun, Dayton, Ohio, I want to thank you for all you do for the folks. I have been watching you on my 58 in big screen TV while on my exercise bike using the Google Chromecast device. I beam it to the device from my laptop. No app needed. I just purchased the audio of Killing England. I have no idea what that means. I think you're exercising and watching me while you're doing that. I think that's what this is. The Google Chromecast device. I can't even unplug my phone. You got to pray for me. Check out all we have on BillO'Reilly.com. We'll see you again tomorrow.